A box of apples costs 2/7 the price of a box of oranges. There are a third as many apples as oranges in one box. If there are 90 oranges in one box and an orange costs 70 cents, we're asked how much does a box of apples cost and how many apples are there in one box? Okay, now hopefully you have noticed a couple of tricky areas here. We're going to have to be very careful because sometimes we're talking about the price of apples compared to the price of oranges. And sometimes we're talking about the number of oranges in a box compared to the number of apples, which of course are two completely different things. But we're going to have to use information about the price comparison with the information about the quantity comparison in order to answer our questions. So we need two models that are measuring completely different things. Okay, so let's start with the price model. Okay, so we're going to do something that uses this information about the price or the cost. Okay, so we've got a box of apples costs 2/7 the price of a box of oranges. So we've got apples and we've got oranges. And what I'm going to do, because we're comparing the apples to the oranges and dividing, it's the oranges that we've divided into sevenths. I'm going to draw a bar for the oranges and I'm just going to, so that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I draw it this way because it's much easier to draw the divisions in and then the box around rather than the bar and then try to divide it. Okay, so this is this is the cost, okay, of a box of oranges. That's what this represents, okay, price or cost. Okay. And a box of apples is 2/7 of this price. So if this is 7/7, this is 2/7. Okay. So I think we've captured that information and we've labeled it. This is price. Okay. Right. Now what are we told? There are a third as many apples as oranges in one box. Okay, so now we're going to have a model that's about the quantity, and often quantity is abbreviated to QTY. All right, so this is the number of apples or oranges in a box, and this is completely separate model with separate units than this one. So there are a third as many apples as oranges. Okay, so if we again have got apples and we've got oranges, if we say that this represents the number of oranges in a box, well, apples, there are a third as many. So if we split this into thirds, we're going to give apples this 1/3. Okay, so this represents the quantity, let's say, per box. Okay, completely different. Right, so where are we? Let's look at the information that we're given. If there are 90 oranges in one box, okay, so this is the model about quantity, and they've now told us that this box, remember this was one box, there are 90 in a box of oranges. So each of these is 90 divided by 3. And that's going to be 30. That's an easy calculation to make. And if each of these parts is 30, then so is this. Okay. And actually, I think there was a question about quantities, and that's over here. How many apples are there in one box? Well, actually, we've got the answer to this already, haven't we? So we might as well put that in. We've already answered one question. Now we want to answer this. How much does a box of apples cost? Well, we know that there are 30 apples in a box. We need to now figure out price. Okay, so there are 90 oranges in one box, and an orange costs 70 cents. Okay, so remember, this is a one box of oranges, one box of apples. We now know the cost of one orange, and we know how many oranges are in a box. So we need to calculate the cost of one box of oranges, and then we should be able to use that. We could put that in over here so that we can work out the cost of a box of apples. Do you follow? Okay, so each orange costs 70 cents. Cents is it's just like pence and pounds. All right, it works in exactly the same way, which is why I don't bother to change it. So each orange costs 70 cents, and we know that there are 90 in one box of oranges. So we want to let's do it up here. 90 times 70, and let's be clear what the 70 is. The 70 is 70 cents. Okay, now this might look a bit scary, but as we've done this in a few of these videos, let's just split this out. 90 times 70 is the same as 9 times 10. That's 9 times 10 times 7 times 10. Okay, this is just the same. It has exactly the same meaning. And you know, with multiplication, we can move things around. So if we move this around, we would have 9 times 7, okay, times 10 times 10, okay? And I do this because 9 times 7 is one of your just regular times tables. I'm sure you know that 9 times 7 is 63. 63 times 10 is 630, and times 10 again is 6,300. Now, what is this? Well, this is 6,300 cents. Okay. There are 100 cents in a dollar, just like there are 100 pence in a pound. So this equals, we should put it into dollars. This is $63. What have I just worked out? That is the cost of one box of oranges. Okay, the cost of one box of oranges. All right, I can draw a box around it. That's important information. Where can I put this now? Well, here, this whole bar represents the cost of one box of oranges, and that's what I could have labeled it earlier. So that is $63. Okay. So if this is $63 and these are all equal parts, which they are, I can divide 63 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parts, okay, to get a value for each of these parts. And 63, if we divide that by 7, we are going to get 9. Okay, so, and this is a price. So each of these, that represents $9. And the same all the way through here. I'm just not bothering to write in all of the dollar signs, and the same up here. So what can we do? Well, we can now work out, well, we know how much a box of oranges costs. What were we asked? how much does a box of apples cost? Well, we can just see that's 2 times 9. All right, so 9 times 2, $9 times 2, which of course is $18. Nice and easy. Okay, so quite tricky, I think, in terms of you. If you weren't being careful, you might get into a muddle as to when you were talking about quantity and when you're talking about price. So can you see how it's important to have the two separate models, and at every stage, at every calculation, that you remind yourself of what it is that you've just calculated. And it's always a good idea to try and label important bits so that if you get into a muddle or if you think you've made a mistake or something like that, you can kind of work back and see where you might have gone wrong.